Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Hope you had a great week. This is Rabbi Shmuel ben Yehoshua coming to you again with this week's portion, a little Devar Torah. And this week's portion is Balak. Now, some of you may be thinking, I hope all of you are thinking, now wait a minute. Last week he said that there was a double Torah portion, doubling up because of the year, because it's a shorter year. Hukat, about the red heifer, and Balak, about the prophet Balaam coming to try to curse the Israelites, and kind of confound their attempts to, be successful in war and get to the promised land in one piece. Okay, so why are we doing this again? Okay, and the reason is because I made a mistake. Here's the mistake I made. Being that it's a shorter year, right, or a regular year, they double up on the sages put out a schedule. Well, they put out a schedule so that we start reading the Torah fresh from Simchat Torah at the end of the high holidays in September, and then we do a whole cycle of reading the Torah. Then Simchat Torah, we roll back the scrolls and we start from Genesis again. And we want to pace it so that we're reading a specific portion each weekend, and we come back, or each Shabbat, and then we come back to the beginning at that appointed time. Modim, appointed time. So when I looked at this Torah portion, and last week was kind of a challenging week for me. I was flying out to New York to get ordained on Sunday, and I'm looking at the Torah portion. Here's a Chumash, for example, and here's Balak, and I'm reading Saturday afternoon as I usually do, and here's the beginning of it. I don't know if you could see that a little bit. Looks like the light is kind of glaring on that, something I kind of hadn't counted on. Okay, maybe that's a little better. So, best laid plans, right? Okay, so here's the Chumash. And let's see if we get a little light on the subject here. So I don't know if y'all can see this, but here's the Hebrew. And you see the Hebrew starts here. And then we go to the next page, and what the Chumash does is it tells you when the next portion is. So first we call up Kohen, who witnesses the first reading. We read a certain amount of Pesukim, the verses, and then when we get to a certain part, and it's all divided so that we can read 7 plus the Maftir, the last 3 verses, we call up some, after every Aliyah, we call up someone else. So here, maybe you could see this. In Hebrew, it says Sheni, but then there's some Hebrew in parentheses, so that if we were reading the 2 portions together, Sheni, which is the second, we would actually be calling the 5th portion. Okay, the 5th portion. So, if when we double up, we call this would be reading more verses, and we're calling up the 5th portion. Okay, turn this off a little bit. So, I looked at that and I thought, okay, it's a double portion. Instead of checking the Luach, the calendar, and being that Saturday was the 30th, I was leaving at the beginning of the week. I didn't see that it was, I didn't check the actual calendar. I just assumed, and we all know what happens when you assume. And I was kind of struggling for time. I had to pack. I didn't want to pack on Shabbat. I was leaving Sunday, so I kind of rushed it, and that's what happened. So as it turns out, this year we had enough time, we had enough empty Shabbatot to where we could do the full, we didn't need to double up that particular portion. All right, so what are things that affect the readings? Okay, so we've got, of course, if it's a leap year, we have the extra month, the extra 4 weeks, but we also have the holidays of Pesach, Passover, and Sukkot, which are both 8-day holidays. So there are years when it might begin on Shabbat and then end on Shabbat. Whenever those holidays intercede with Shabbat, it's a special Torah reading. In those particular years, we have 2 Shabbatot that have special Torah readings, which means we have to double up more. Okay, so that's how the schedule works. Okay, so of course I'm a little concerned. What did I do? I made a mistake, and in fact I've done this before. Full confession, full disclosure, folks. A couple of years ago at B'nai Chaim, I was doing Torah reading. It was the end of the year. At the end of the year, the end of the Hebrew year, the Torah readings get a little tricky because we've got all the holidays. and I read the wrong Torah portion. So of course I was concerned. What do I got to do? Do I have to bring a goat to the temple, let the Kohanim cut it up? We do a sacrifice, we wave it in the air. It's a chatat, it's a shagad rather. I made an unwitting error, but so I did some research. No consequences. I thought, well, maybe I have to fast. Nothing. And why is that? Well, Torah reading actually is fairly new in our heritage. Okay, it was instituted by Maimonides in like the 12th, 13th century, and they developed the schedule that they have now to make sure that we're fully focused, that we're always constantly studying Torah. We do it a little every day, but now make sure we do it every week. And it was really kind of arbitrary. There's no place in the Torah that says you must read 50, 54, whatever it is, portions every year, right? So basically, it's really kind of a tradition, and as more we do tradition, it becomes embedded in law. Now, we of course want to follow the schedule. We don't want to go, well, this is a very tragic Torah portion. It's where Nadab and Abihu go into the Mishkan, and they're killed, and we don't want to read that. So let's read another one. No, you follow the schedule anyway. Okay, so doing that, now that we've had a little bit of a lesson, let's talk more about Balak. Okay. So, Balak was the king. He was the Moabite. Actually, he was a Moabite warrior again. He was very fierce. The Moabite tribes kind of took him on as their king. They wanted protection from the Israelites. He went off and he got Balaam, who was a prophet, who was a sorcerer, to come and curse the Hebrews. So let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, we say that Balaam was a prophet. Well, Hashem has made sure, back then there were 70 nations, and Hashem made sure that each nation had a guardian angel. This is where the concept comes from. Each nation had a guardian angel, and often the Orthodox will look at a Torah portion, they'll see something and they'll say, oh, okay, it wasn't just that such and such was defeating the people, but they were defeating that particular people's angel as well. Now, for us Israelites, we believe, and rightly so, that we actually work directly with Hashem. So what else did Hashem do? He also had prophets in some of these other nations. That's why nations can't say, well, come on, the Israelites have an unfair advantage. They got Hashem looking out for them. All we get is some, little angel, and we don't have a prophet. Okay, so Hashem's like, okay, you've got a prophet. Now, looking at the relevancy of today, let's look at two of the biggest religions in the world, Christianity and Islam. Christianity has the prophet Jesus, or Son of God, however you look at it. I'm not going to pass judgment. I'm not going to make a comment on that. And Islam, of course, has the prophet Muhammad. So and then Buddhism has Buddha. Hinduism, I believe, has certain dignity. I mean, they're really more into the gods. And if you look at a lot of these religions, they have their own prophet. In China, Confucianism, it was Confucius who did that. So each of those religions has a very special prophet that basically put the religion together. And let us look at it the way it was Balaam. He was a gifted prophet. He knew how to curse. He had that divine instinct, as do these other prophets. Now, how do we approach it as Jews? We say, okay, that's great, they have their prophet, but we've got our system and we stick to it, okay, because it works for us, right? Moses told the children of Israel on Deuteronomy, we're getting to this in a few months, Hashem said to him, the Torah is complete, you do not add, you do not subtract. This is for the Israelites. We have our own path, and we adhere to it the same way Christians adhere to their path, Muslims adhere to their path, the same way Balaam was adhering to his path, except that Hashem would not let him curse the Israelites. So this really kind of says something a little bit about good and evil, right? If you pursue evil, yes, you are led on the way, but does evil work? No, it does not. That's really kind of the lesson here. Try as Balaam did, he couldn't get the words out. Hashem would not allow him to curse the Israelites, because Hashem knew that the divine gifts that Balaam have, if he cursed somebody at the right time of day, that was part of it too. Supposedly in the Talmud they say that there's a certain time of the day that Hashem judges people, and Balaam knew this. This was his gift. He knew that hour, hour and a half that Hashem judges people. He knew that was the best time to say a curse, right? And Hashem wouldn't let it do it. Right? So that's basically what happened there. So Balak, of course, is very upset. He's like, he paid him. He said, "Give me back my money." And Balaam is like, "No, let's try again, and let's try again." And of course, it didn't work. He was confounded. So, but it's interesting too, if you look at the way some of these portions have been going. Hukad, the last Torah portion, had a lot of things in it. The red cow had, the rock, and this particular portion, it's really kind of centered just on the affair with Balak and Balaam, isn't it? So anyway, I hope you have a great Shabbat. Our synagogue, B'nai Chaim, is getting back to its regular schedule. My cold is starting to abate a little bit. I pray to Hashem that He'll grant me good health enough tomorrow night so I can sing and we can have a great time, and we can daven, and we can pray, and we can be in Hashem's mind. And if you can't make it, we'll be thinking about you anyway. So thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom, and I look forward to many more of these talks and serving you as your rabbi. Even if I'm not your rabbi, please come to me if you have any questions or any concerns, and we'll all work it out. So thank you very much. Have a great Shabbat.